I mean, I don't understand. We know you talk to Trump regularly, Piers. I'm surprised you don't have a white bandage on your ear right now, honestly. And we've seen and we've read all 920 pages of Project 2025, and in it, it says that instead of the police, the military should be patrolling the streets.
Which the president has disavowed time and again.
That is,
the president has said that he does not support Project 2025.
Even though every single person who wrote it was a former Trump advisor. Come on, give me a break. Stephen Miller is in
President Trump himself has said that he does not support Project 2025. We're supposed to think that you believe more about what President Trump believes and what he has said himself he believes. It's crazy.
Oh, you know what's in his heart. You know what's in his heart.
Welcome back to the channel where we cover the longest I told you so in human history. In this episode, we're breaking down a heated debate from the Piers Morgan show, where young conservative C.J. Pearson takes on liberals Francesca Fiorentini, Joe Walsh, and another Gen Z member, Chris Mowry. Also joining the panel is libertarian Dave Smith.
Let me ask you this. You talk about hateful rhetoric from the right to the left, and that definitely has been. It's indisputable. But what about the hateful rhetoric from the left to the right? For example, for 8 years, I've heard people on the left, from the top down, refer to Trump as the new Hitler, as Adolf Hitler, as if somehow he's presiding over a Nazi-style regime, which, if you're too young to remember, perhaps, but the Nazis killed 12 million people, including murdering 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. So it's hard to imagine a more offensive or vile slur or more hateful rhetoric than to compare Donald Trump, who's done none of those things, to Adolf Hitler. So do you accept that people on the left have been just as guilty of hateful rhetoric and contributing to the general toxicity of the debate as people on the right?
Sure, but I do want to point out that, you know, the person who's actually called Donald Trump's America's Hitler is J.D. Vance, his current running mate. J.D. Vance was someone who is very staunchly never
that was
Trump.
wrong too.
If you look at elected officials across the board, Democrats have consistently been the ones to calm the tensions. And look, I disagree with calling him America's Hitler, but if I call Donald Trump a dictator or a threat to democracy, I think it's almost dishonest to not call him that. This is somebody who tried to overturn an election he didn't win with evidence that he didn't win it. And so I don't understand how it's hateful to say that he's a threat to democracy or he's moving us toward authoritarianism. And again, I think that the fact that J.D. Vance is the one who said things like he's America's Hitler goes to the fact that, you know, you have to give up all your morals.
All right, let me get a response to that from CJ.
You know, it appears that's absolutely insane. For Chris to sit here and say that it's dishonest for him not to call Donald Trump a dictator is absolutely laughable. Maybe if Chris actually visited a country with a real dictatorship, he would realize that under a system of governance where real dictators did exist, the conversation, the debate, the discourse that we're having wouldn't even at all be possible. But that's all they traffic in, is all of this hyperbolic rhetoric that has actually no semblance of reality, because they don't actually know how to defeat the president, because he delivered for the American people time and again during his presidency.
CJ,
we had the lowest black unemployment rate. We had record economic growth. We had a secure southern border. All of those things are policy wins that Joe Biden can't brag about. It's exactly why Kamala Harris has to talk about a black girl summer. But here's the reality. Under Kamala Harris, you're going to have a broke girl summer, a broke girl fall.
I do think their comments to Trump being a dictator, calling him American Hitler, or a threat to democracy are over the top. We already had 4 years of his presidency, and what happened? He made friends with world leaders. Mussolini started wars and was a socialist, so the comparisons are off. Trump is definitely something. He is different for sure, but he had his chance to destroy democracy.
I'm not a Democrat. Dave and I probably agree on most policy issues. The difference is, I think Trump is a unique existential threat to our democracy, so I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is. Pierce, to you, you made a great point early. You said we're living in unprecedented times. A month ago, an 81-year-old candidate for president had a debate and showed that he was not at all ready to continue to be a candidate. He was too old, and the entire Democratic Party rightfully panicked. It is a party process. It's not an election. The party convinced him to step aside, and he made that final decision. This is how the process in each party works. There's nothing undemocratic about it.
Yeah. I just want to say that I think it is wrong to compare Donald Trump to Hitler.
Yeah, Francesca,
I agree. I think it's absolutely wrong. If you're going to compare him to someone, it's obviously Mussolini, okay? Much more of a showman, great jawline. Wow. I think that is where it happens. And look, Donald Trump by his own admission said he would be a dictator, but only on day one. At his word. So...
But you know the problem, Francesca, listen, here's the problem. Funny though your quip just was, and maybe you meant it or not, the truth is, I've just noticed that people on the left, when it comes to Donald Trump, they lose their collective minds. The reality about the checks and balances of the American democratic process was they were actually very robust. Trump may not have accepted the result of the 2020 election, but he's not in the White House. He's not president of the United States. He had to go that day.
Have you read?
Bang, out the door.
We know,
so the checks and balances did work.
Has said that he does not support Project 2025. We're supposed to think that you believe more about what President Trump believes and what he has said himself he believes. It's
CJ,
crazy.
You know what's in his heart. You know what's in his heart.
If you want to see what President Trump believes, go to donaldjtrump.com, read Agenda 47.
What's in his heart?
Read Agenda 47.
How about this? How about we don't go with what's in his heart and we go with the 4-year track record? I mean, the problem here is that, and look, to your point, obviously the rhetoric on both sides has been elevated tremendously over the last few years. At very divisive times in this country. And both sides are guilty of this or right to do it, however you look at it. But people do lose their collective minds when it comes to Donald Trump. Look, these comparisons, the idea that he's some Hitlerian figure is ridiculous. Even the comparisons to Mussolini, this is all silliness. Donald Trump was president for 4 years, okay? He did a lot of things bad. I was a big critic of his foreign policy. His fiscal policy was very bad. I do not think he handled COVID well, but these are problems kind of similar to previous presidents before that. His rhetoric is much more bombastic than other presidents were, okay? That's the reality that we're dealing in. And the fact that you guys have to take this up to 11, as if there's some existential threat to the republic that isn't, by the way, you want to know the real existential threat to, hold on, just 1 second, let me finish.
Francesca Fiorentini and Chris Mowry argue that while the comparison is extreme, the authoritarian tactics Trump employed are reminiscent of dangerous leaders. In my opinion, they've been trained to use the same talking points. They say it enough so it becomes true, and how dare you try to question it. January 6th, he's a convicted felon. He colluded with Russia, election denier, and orange man bad. The Americans are seeing through it and just want to see a fair election.
The real existential threat to our republic right now is that debt is over, the interest on our debt is overtaking our entire budget. And this is something that Democrats and Republicans are both guilty of. So they don't want to talk about that because it's, it condemns both of them. But the reality of the situation is that whatever happened on January 6th that got out of control, there certainly was violence there. Donald Trump got on a plane and went back to Mar-a-Lago. He was never calling in the military. There was never a chance that he was going to institute a dictatorship in the United States of America. This is all election nonsense. And I'll tell you something, Democrats, you better figure out something else to run against, because this whole Kamala Harris is a prosecutor and Donald Trump is a felon. The American people have rejected this already. No one cares about these charges that wouldn't have been brought to any other former president, okay?
Equating him to a dictator minimizes historical atrocities. It makes a joke out of those who died to fight real dictatorships. Hitler tried to exterminate an entire race of people. Trump just wants people to enter in the country the legal way and stop the cartels from pouring drugs into our cities. This is where younger people are misled. The education is decreasing in this country and indoctrination is happening. Whether it's from school, the media, or even the parents, the younger generation is misinformed. C.J. Pearson expresses gratitude to be alive in America because he understands that not every country shares the same freedoms as we do.
This isn't going to do it. You got to have something of substance. The problem is what you guys could actually run against is that Donald Trump was such a disaster through all of 2020, and he kept Fauci on the job, and he kept Americans locked down. The problem is you guys were criticizing him for not locking down harder. So I don't know what angle you're going to find. There's plenty of flaws on him. The problem is you guys are worse on most of the issues he's bad on.
David, be better than that. Quit saying you guys. Everybody opposes Donald Trump for their own reason. Quit saying you guys. And I'm sorry, quit saying those of us who do believe, and you can disagree, Dave, those of us who do believe Trump is a unique threat to democracy, quit saying we've lost our minds. Come on, man. I haven't lost my mind.
Absolutely lost your mind.
I'm old.
Wait, absolutely lost your mind.
Hold on, CJ. Let me finish, CJ. I'm older than you, Dave and CJ. In my lifetime, I've never seen a president lose an election and refuse to concede. I've never seen a president try to overthrow the results of that election. You can disagree with the severity of that.
But Joe, hold on 1 second. But let's just be real specific here. Hold on.
Real specific. January 6th, 2021. Real specific for you, my guy.
Wait, this is Dave and CJ. I feel like are not willing to look into the deeper aspects. I mean, Donald Trump is someone who's had a whole fake electors plot, sent fake electors to my state of Georgia, and tried to, essentially take the will of the people away. He had the Department of Justice in the Oval Office demanding that they sign a letter that with a DOJ header that said they believed there was election interference, and 2 DOJ officials resigned over that. Again, it is so dishonest to say that Donald Trump was normal or that people are losing their minds when they say he's a threat to democracy. I mean, he tried and went through every single illegal and legal action to overturn the election. And why people are freaked out is because if you have another Trump presidency where he could install loyalists, all of a sudden those checks and balances
let me just because you guys are
disappear.
making different arguments here, but let me
invalidated under
Hang on,
a
don't
Trump
talk over each
presidency.
other.
The Constitution.
I'll shut up for good. One more point. It's now Kamala Harris against Donald Trump.
Joe.
It's Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. If Kamala Harris loses in November, Kamala Harris will concede and she'll accept the will of the people. If Donald Trump loses in November, he won't and he won't. That is a threat.
Well,
I just want to.
Okay, but look, here's the, okay.
Piers,
if I were to say, and I want honestly,
they have not
Piers,
learned their lesson.
Hold on, let me just respond to.
Let Dave respond, then I'll come to CJ.
So if I were to say right now, I want to overthrow democracy in the United States of America and institute a dictatorship, I don't think anyone on the panel is very freaked out by that because I have no power to do it. Like, it doesn't really matter if I want to do it or not. Now, I will kind of agree with you guys. I just thought the way Trump handled the 2020 election was terrible. I did think he was kind of using like bully tactics when he called the Secretary of State in Georgia there. But the bottom line is that he had no mechanism to actually overthrow democracy, and it was a totally like impotent attempt to even do it. So listen, hold on. Let me just finish, because I let you guys go for a second. Let me just finish making my point here. This is the problem with you guys going to this well over and over again. It was never actually a threat to overthrow democracy. If you want to talk about people who haven't accepted the results of elections, Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Stacey Abrams, they all have said these were illegitimate elections or there was outside interference. There is nothing. Look, you guys are listen, just hear me for a second. Consider, yes, they conceded. Okay, so they conceded and he didn't. Okay, so by the magical power of saying I concede, that somehow makes us a democracy and not a dictatorship. You guys are obsessing over this thing that most Americans don't actually care that much about.
I agree. We've got to leave it there.
What are your thoughts on this debate? Do you think it's fair to compare Trump to Hitler? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and just remember, we told you so.